What's up, guys? Welcome to Project Freelance. This week, I am talking to my friend Alex. He owns an underwear company called Krakatoa Underwear, and he also worked on a bunch of video games, including the first Spiderman, the second Spiderman, Call of Duty, Transformers. He's worked on tons of stuff. He's done a couple of his own mobile games. So this week, we are going to be talking to him about how he got started, how he built his career, and what he's doing now. So thank you guys for checking out this episode. We're going to just dive right into it. Alex, please introduce yourself to people and tell them what you're all about. So sorry guys, first of all, we have two separate mics running, and so I'm going to be on this mic, so I may not be directly facing Alex the whole time, but we'll still be having a conversation with each other. But yeah, enjoy this.
Hi, I'm Alex Bortoluzzi. I'm CEO of Krakatoa Underwear.
Okay, and let's talk about Krakatoa a little bit, and then we'll go into your history with gaming. So tell me a little bit about the brand, about what you wanted to do with it, and where it's gone.
So Krakatoa started when I was trying to buy underwear for myself. I was at a box store of some sort with my wife, and then I decided to buy some underwear, and I realized that they're all the same. They change a little bit here and there, they put a little name here and there, but they basically were using the same materials and the same cut from the 1800s, perhaps some modern ones in the mid-1900s. And I'm like, is there anything different out there? So yes, I found a bunch of novelty stuff with some questionable shapes and a lot of bad stuff. And I was like, okay, there must be a better way. So I still managed to find a bunch of stuff. And with that, I decided to make a Frankenstein out of those. And that's what Krakatoa is. It's literally an underwear designed for people with balls. Because it's something that if I feel like they forgot about it, this little detail on other underwear.
Okay, so tell me about your demographic, the type of people you're trying to brand to. Because, I wear your stuff, I'm a girl, I wear boxer briefs, and I'm always looking for something super comfortable that can last, and a lot of other brands don't last very long. Like, for example, I love Ethica, but Ethica's underwear, they don't last very long, and they're so expensive. So talk about your price point a little bit and talk about your demographic.
Yeah, that's a very interesting. You said that you wear it, right? Because my wife wears it too. She likes the long ones, the boxer briefs when she wears under a dress or something, because that's like it glides under, especially if your legs touch. And that was something that I also was worried about, because I got that complaint from several guys, especially heavy set guys, that their legs touch and their underwear just drenches and rips. Right, and or roll over, or I talked to a lot of guys about their problem, because it was not like, hey, I didn't find underwear, I'm gonna make my own, right? I really talked to a bunch of people, and the funny thing is, like, I'm not alone, and it's not only guys. You would think like, oh, there's so much offer in underwear for girls, but literally 70% of all the wives and girlfriends of the guys that wear Krakatoa come to me like, when are you gonna make underwear for girls? And I'm like, why? Because my husband doesn't stop talking about this. And he never did that before. Or my boyfriend just talked about his underwear with the male men. And I'm like, what? And at the bar last night. And I'm like, and he never did that, So that kind of stuff like resonated in me. But in reality, as I said, I didn't want to just create yet another last drop catcher, right? I wanted to make the best underwear possible. So I tried several different materials, from bamboo to combed cotton to Zima. There's a bunch of brands of cotton, and then there's different types of synthetics and other organic fibers. But the only one that really hit the spot was this micromodal. It's an incredible fiber that's actually made out of beech trees. They are not even killed. They take the branches and they make a pulp and they turn into a rayon. So it's an incredible material, super modern. It's made in the 70s or 80s by this company called Lenzing in Austria. And I haven't found anything like it. I literally have my very, very first sample from 2015, and I can literally put on a mannequin and photograph it. Wow. It's unbelievable. So it's a great material. As I told you before, there's a lot of crap out there, and we don't need more. So if I want to do something, let's do something special, different, and the best stuff, because we guys like to buy stuff that lasts, so we don't have to go out and buy again, right? And actually, kind of a problem, because Krakatoa usually lasts way too long. You know, guys, I used to burn underwear like every couple of years, and now you literally can spend years with pairs of Krakatoa, and they really last a long time. They're really good.
So talk about the slogan a little bit behind Krakatoa, and what that means to you.
Well, I have two slogans actually. One is put a volcano in your pants, right? Because most men's underwear are designer names, so they have men's names in underwear. I don't know. I don't want a guy inside my pants. That's me, no problem. But a volcano, you know, eruptions, loud noises, and hot gases. You know, I found it a very typical guy thing. And it's juvenile at best, but I find it interesting. You know, so, and Krakatoa is this gigantic volcano. Literally, imagine like 6 square miles. Grab San Francisco cubicle and toss it in the air. It's that much power that literally changed the planet for 10 years. You know the famous The Scream painting from Edward Munch?
Totally.
That sky is red because of Krakatoa.
Really?
Yes. You know, so
crazy.
it changed. So there's a lot of paintings from the time. They have these gorgeous sunsets and beautiful, beautiful skies because of the dust, the particles from Krakatoa. It was so strong that within 10 miles from the eruption, every sailor from ships from England that were around got deaf. They lost their hearing. Such a strong, was the loudest sound ever heard by mankind to this day.
Wow.
Right?
That's nuts.
It's incredible. So it's like, okay, this is a beautiful, powerful being, and, you know, creator of worlds. And I think it was a perfect name, and I loved it, and I'm happy that I got it. And the rest is history. It's trying to put everything together to make a garment, especially when you don't have much of experience in the field, right? But the passion and as a mission, it's like, enough of this. You know, after talking to so many people, and all the guys were literally like hurting, you know, and then seeing the reactions after they wear something that is proper. I would say proper because it's like, okay, it's designed for your anatomy, your needs. You know, it's not just because it's cute or because it's a special name. No, it's designed for guys to be the best there can be without having to worry about, you know, grabbing themselves.
Yeah, all
the
day.
time.
All
Yes,
day.
all the time.
So let's shift gears. Let's talk about video games for a little while. My favorite. So let's talk about how you got started in let's just talk about how you got into video games in the first place. What was your introduction?
Well, I'm ancient, you know that, right? You know, I used to roam the plains with the dinosaurs. So I started in the 80s when computer graphics was like, what, right? And I lived in a country that was under a military dictatorship that didn't allow me to bring computers from abroad. So I literally had to be, you know, a criminal, you know, illegally smuggling computers so I could do art and do work, right? So I started with an Amiga 500 back in the day. A Commodore Amiga. It was the coolest computer ever. I mean, I still regard it as the best computer ever made. And with that, I learned a lot of 2D animation and keyframing and movement and colors and everything. Then I got the Amiga 2000 that had a board called the Video Toaster. They had this software called Lightwave that finally brought 3D to the masses. It was quick. You could play your animation in high resolution directly from the machine. That was unheard of back in the day. But for all this to happen, I literally had to be, you know, flying, getting, you know, literally bribing people to bring me equipment and software, and getting to know people around the world by, you know, before the internet was born. So it was interesting. Long phone calls, but.
Where did you get your computer parts from? Like you had mentioned before you had to go on these like journeys and these quests. Like, talk about that.
Yes. So I lived in the south of Brazil, and the only place I could find equipment was in Paraguay. You know, and it's close to this gigantic electric dam, the Itaipu. It was the biggest in the world for a while. Now the one that's a gorge in China is bigger. But then there's the city that's like a duty free, so you don't pay taxes. But there's a lot of gray market and black market crap there, right? So we had to travel for 15 hours by bus. And during the trip was, it was not beautifully paved, let me tell you. But there was a lot of robberies because people know that those buses are like full of dollars, right? Fresh dollars to be used to buy stuff there. So those buses got, attacked all the time. So you sleep on this bus. You leave like 7 p.m. on a Friday, and you spend all the night and the evening, everything, all the way in the morning till like 1 o'clock in the afternoon when you get there. And then you have 3 hours to get everything you can that you need, right? So you have a motherboard here and a video card there and a CD-ROM from this guy, and and you're flying, running in this literally death trap stores. They have 0 fire marshals taking care of anything. It's like death traps. A whole building, there's one tiny door, and we're there buying all this stuff, and then boom, we have to hurry to the bus because the bus is leaving. And then grab your stuff and rush, and it's crowded. It was crazy. And then get on the bus, and then have to go through customs, And there we are, handling hundreds, perhaps thousands of dollars, when the maximum you could bring was $150, right? And I had like $800 cartridge on my pocket. I had stuff, memory staying in my balls. This is horrible. But it was the only way to do it. You had to be illegal to be able to work. Because if you would buy everything over there, it was literally the price of a house. It was so ridiculous. But we did it. And then I started working with the internet in 93. I had my email, had access to it. And I met a guy online. Yeah, lived in LA. We were in a chat room, a 2.5D kind of Doom style chat room called Worlds Chat. And so we get there and start talking, and there's a bunch of people. Everybody has an avatar, and it's a space station. It's super cool, actually. I love the format. It was a space station. Everybody has an avatar, and you see the bubbles, and people start talking to each other. And this guy was a 3D artist, an art director here, Patrick Chapernet, and he used to work on a French company here, Infogam, and make several great games, adventure games. And I met him. He's like, "What do you do?" He's like, "Well, I work in computer graphics." Like, me too. I make video games. Like, that's all I want to make. And I'm done with vignettes and logos and maps and the stuff I was doing. I was doing a lot of broadcasting stuff. And then he's like, "Well, send me your resume." So that was 90. I met him in 95. Then I met him personally in 96 when I came to Vegas. 97, he sent me a job offer, and when I came. Wow. It's great. Yeah.
So when you got to America from Brazil, what was it like a culture shock for you to go from having a government that was so oppressive and so, tight with their, everything, their policies, their people, to going to America where it's a totally different environment? What was that like for you?
There were shocks, but not as hard because we're so cultured, American cultured. Yeah. We watch TV shows, we watch the movies, the news are always talking about what happens here, So you kind of think until you get here, right? And then it's the day-to-day, it's the interaction with the people, it's the personal space, like things that are pretty much unknown for a Brazilian. It's something called personal space. We love to be around each other and hugging each other and, talking to each other all the time and touching all the time. And then you get here and people are like, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Oh, I have a glass wall all around me, and if you touch it, it's going to be bad. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people? And little things like that. The food, everything is spicier. Like in the south of Brazil, we use salt, rock salt. It's the main spice, and it's delicious because we get fresh foods and everything. But then you get here, and it's the first meal when I went to a Mexican restaurant, and I didn't know anything. I was never exposed to Mexican food. So I just look at people like, I want to have what he's having. And that was a bad idea. A really bad idea. It was hot as hell. But the best story is because I had to buy stuff, gray market, or OEM in white or gray boxes, right? And then I get here and my boss looks at me like, well, it seems that we don't have a computer for you. Let's get you a computer. And I'm thinking, oh man, now we're gonna go and grab a bunch of boxes, assemble, it's gonna take me a day to put everything together. And then we hop on his Mustang convertible, a GT red. I'm like, this is not bad. And then we're in Canoga Park driving about these beautiful boulevards and everything, and we land at Fry's. I mean, come on. Fry's is Disneyland for geeks, right? So I get there and I literally just get literally in shock. And I'm looking at everything in original boxes. It's still closed around, wrapped in plastic. And you could return it if you don't like it. That was literally disturbing to me because, well, like if something went bad that I bought after traveling for 30 hours, it was bad. It just is over. You know, I have to go there again and get it again. And then getting there, and then you see this, you know, the one in Canoga Park is like Alice in Wonderland. So it's beautiful setting and everything, and all the hardware you can ever imagine, all the software, you know, in their original boxes. Not even have to pirate them anymore. I can buy them now in boxes. And so that was brilliant. That was really brilliant. And of course, the shock of living in Southern California. It's like, for a good 6 months, you still think that some camera crew is gonna jump from a corner, you know, because everything looks like the movies.
Yeah.
You know, the parking garages, the sidewalks, you know, everything. You know, the first day I was here, the very first morning I had arrived, I had an accident on the freeway.
Standard.
The 405 and the 101, I'm standing there, I'm standing in the bright sunlight, burning. My friend also had a convertible. And I'm like, well, it's California, might as well get some sun. And I'm burning there, and then we're stuck on the 405 to get on the 101 when this guy just doesn't stop and hit somebody. And I could hear like, bang, bang. I was like, I just held myself and bam! We got hit too, nothing bad. Then the cop comes like, dude, it's Poncherello from Chips right here on my window, the real deal. So yeah, it was interesting. It was like very animated first day.
For sure. I mean, I think every day in California is a different day, a completely different day, you know? So tell me what the first kind of thing you did with the new company that you started working with as far as games go. What was the first thing you worked on?
Oh, back in the day, we started working on, it was almost like a clone of the game Descent. That was a 3D ship, right? So it could go anywhere. But at the time, you know, this is 97, like, there was no 3D acceleration on video yet. There was just one card. 3D effects was bringing 3D acceleration. That's today everything is 3D acceleration. So everything had to be done by software. So whole levels had to have a maximum of like 700 to 900 polygons. A whole level. You know, nowadays you see this in an eyelid of a character, right? It's ridiculous. And we don't care for polygons anymore. Back in the day, every polygon had to be textured and translated and rendered by the processor, not a dedicated hardware. So we have to be very economical to make whole levels with the minimum amount of polygons and textures possible. So that was very, very interesting, how we had to be very creative and mindful of every step of the way, everything you're doing. And but then soon after that, the company didn't last long. They had one game or two, and then I got unemployed for a little while. I started studying more into low poly 3D because I was mostly used to high poly 3D, like pre-render stuff. They would, you know, go to be pre-rendered several hours per frame and things like that. And now I'm talking about several per second. So you have to be mindful of that. So, but I love to see how far we came. You know, from when I started, we would render one frame with a resolution of 320 by 240 with 4,000 colors. Oh, 4,000 colors. 25 hours, 26 hours with 300 polygons, untextured. So not even a texture, it's just the poly with shading. It would take 25 hours. And I would leave that computer on all night long. I'll turn it on, and then I could see the pixel being rendered, and I'll turn off and fall asleep again. And a couple hours later, I wake up, press the button, and oh, it's still here. Still here. And I'll go to college, and I come back home, and I press the button on the monitor. Still rendering. Oh, almost there. You know? And then we just save that on a floppy. Yes. Now we're rendering millions of polygons per second at 4K resolution with 24-bit depth, and it's just so astronomically so much faster, such incredibly dedicated hardware we got specific for this. I love it. I really love it. It's really cool.
So let's go into Spider-Man. Talk to me about that.
Oh man, Spider-Man consumed several years of my life, but it was a great adventure. So we're at Treyarch, and
first, how did you get your job at Treyarch?
Oh, job at Treyarch. So after all this, I got this. I used to work with a guy at this first company, and then he got a job at Treyarch, and he invited me to go there. At first, was mostly we were doing conversions for from one console to another for EA. We did Triple Play 2000, the baseball game, but then we had an original IP game, Draconus, and that was cool because original IP, you can do whatever you want. And we really created a very, very nice game called Draconus, the Cult of the Wyrm. And so it's several different environments, beautiful open environments. The combat was really cool because it was not just canned animations. The whole character was rigged. So if you step on a stone, your foot will go up and the other one will compensate. All mechanical. It was really brilliant. But Peter Ackman was the CEO, one of the CEOs of the company. He had his PhD was about human anatomy and how to make bones, and it was amazing. So it was very specific. We did it for a Dreamcast, and after that, they wanted us to do a port for the first Spider-Man game before the movie, but they just want a quick port. Let's just do something quick because the movie's coming out. Nobody, back in the day, they didn't know if movies and games will actually be a good synergy, right? And they didn't want to invest much. But then we pulled it off, and then we did the first one that the webbing goes to nowhere, God race. But we had to do that as quick as possible. I mean, it was better than the first Spider-Man that if you go a certain height, you just die, right?
Wait, what? You go too high and you just die?
The very first one on the PlayStation 1, actually. There was like this fog, so you had to time how many webbings you had until you hit the other building, otherwise you die, right? So it was very crazy, but people liked it. And Activision, we decided that we could do something that we could go to the rooftops and the sidewalks, and we did it, and it worked. But then we crunched like mad. Oh my God, we worked 12 to 14-hour days for months.
Were you staying at Treyarch?
Oh yeah, we lived, we slept on the desks, and it's a very typical thing from gaming that I hope that we finish this practice. But we don't live, we just work. It's literally working. And people think like, oh, you guys can play video games. No, you're not. It's so much work. Video games are so complex. To me, it's one of the biggest endeavors of mankind, if we want to think of it, because it's such an incredible amount of specific talent and specific egos put together in ultra high technology of like the stuff that is not even being developed. We consider that making a game is like building a plane while flying, right? And hope that you don't crash. And biggest majority of games crash and burn and never see the light of day, right? Because of that. So we're all there, and then they invited us to they asked us to make the second one for the second movie, because the first movie made $120 million the first weekend. And there's some money that we made there. So they asked us to make like an attempt to make the second one, but they didn't want to change anything. They wanted to keep the same webbing going nowhere and everything. And then I got along with one of the coders and the lead designer, and we just made some playground things. And then he started testing the new flowing web that you can really use physics as a pendulum to go places. So we kind of got locked up into this because Activision didn't know about it. And we finally got one nice quarter we could do and do some things, and then we showed it to them, and they got hooked. So much so they ended up buying the company. And it was so hard because the limitations were so brutal. The technical hurdles on Spider-Man 2 were incredible. As I said, PlayStation 2 has only 32 megabytes of memory. And we had to shove New York inside that thing. So the only way we could stream the neighborhoods and the blocks of the city was to have at least 9 of them in memory. So we have all these 9. So wherever you go, you could go to a neighborhood that will be in memory. And then the rest is getting loaded as you move around, right? So it was new tech. We're just finding stuff out. And then how much memory can we have per 300 by 300 yard block, city block? And that will contain everything from the textures of the sidewalk to the trash cans to trees and lampposts and signage to awnings to buildings to the top of the building and everything that's on top of a building. So the calculus was this will have half a megabyte, a whole 300 by 300 meter block of New York City. And I'm like, wow, 500 kilobytes. This is nothing. The texture have to be like, 4-bit compression. It's like 16 colors and tiny and everything. And okay, we're gonna make it do. No, I'm sorry. 512 is the size of the block, but you can only use 385 kilobytes of memory. How am I gonna make this? So we really had to put our heads together and find out how we're gonna make strains of memory, okay, just for the noise, just for specific areas. Every block has its own memory. The whole city shares one bunch of stuff that we can share among all, like manhole covers, stop signs. They go for all the city, right? But all the things also have to be specific per area of the city. So those need their own memory. So we had to work literally the last 9 months non-stop, 7 days a week, 12 to 14-hour days. Non-stop. We had lunch and dinner together. They hired a company to do our laundry because we were always thinking, because we couldn't go home to wash or to at least do laundry. It was a death march from hell, but we made it. And the game was only ready. We could only run through, web throughout the city the last 2 weeks of the game. The last 2 weeks. And the game only got fully functional literally the last 2 weeks. And it was $20 million a day fine on Walmart alone if the game was not on the shelf.
$20 million?
A day if we didn't put the game on the shelf on time. So the pressure was incredible on all of us. And the team was huge. And there's pressure by the studio, pressure by Activision, pressure on ourselves because we wanted to make the best game possible, right? And it literally was a work of art. You come to think of it, considering what we have to do to put that thing in that hardware. And to this day, people consider like the best superhero game of all time until the last Spiderman game now on the PlayStation 4 that looks eerily similar to the old one with a much better skin on top. But yeah, they're very similar. And I think I'm very proud of the game for sure.
So how did you guys map New York? Like, how did you figure out like what the sidewalks looked like, what the lampposts looked like? How'd you do that?
We went to New York on a scavenger trip, taking photos. It was people thought that we were completely crazy because we're the weird tourists taking photos of like chewing gum on the floor. And and dirt on the walls and weird alleyways, and we were trying to find the stuff that's not the glamorous stuff from New York. We're trying to find the stuff that is New York, what makes New York New York, right? So from the manhole covers that are specific, and to the signage, to the type of stores, the storefronts, of course the specific buildings. But it was just after September 11th. Actually, on the very first one, I was working, on the second one, I was working in downtown. I was the modeler. I requested to model downtown because in 1976, I was 12 years old and I saw King Kong with Jeff Bridges and Jessica Lange. And I loved that movie. And I promised myself that I was gonna see the World Trade Center one day. And I always wanted to go there. And I read everything when I was a kid about the World Trade Center and everything, and it was like a dream of mine going to the World Trade Center. But I went several places in the United States, but haven't been to New York yet. Was really looking forward to go to see it. So when September 11 happened and all that horrible thing happened, and then it's like my heart just broke because now that would never happen, right? But worse than that is that I was the modeler in charge of modeling the World Trade Center, and I had modeled it, and it was my baby.
Wow.
And it was a gorgeous model. I tried to make it with little polygons as possible. It was perfect representation, and I was making the area around right when it happened, and was like mind-boggling. We were still not trying to understand all that madness. And then the day after we came back, when we were able to work again, because we were so involved with New York so deeply because of Spider-Man. And we knew I knew all the numbers. I knew how many people would be working at that day. It was like I'm freaking out at home. Oh my God, there's 30,000 people that work in this building every day, and seeing all this, and then I'm in my room still in my office trying to cope with all that. The couple of days later, and then I have all downtown just staring at me because I'm working on it and I'm looking at that thing, and then my art director just looks at me at the door. It's like, Alex, can you please delete the World Trade Center? and I couldn't do it. I was like, it was several days. The World Trade Center was there. We were making builds and testing the game, but the World Trade Center was there because we couldn't. I couldn't delete it. And then like, Alex, please delete it. And it was one of the toughest things professionally I've ever done, is to grab the building and just press the delete key after so much love that I had for that building.
It's such a unique thing to have to cope with as a video game creator, having the real world impact this fictional world. Talk about the responsibility you guys had taking that building out.
Oh, was so painful to begin with, right? It was incredibly painful. Because, especially for me, I wanted to do the best I could to make it justice, because for me, as a person, was so important. And then having to be the guy that actually removes it from New York, from a game that will be played by millions, was not really, it was not easy. It was definitely not easy. And it took a while for us to get used to it because the city was coming along so beautifully, and that's such a incredible, strong visual point. And then it's gone. You just feel like a cat without a tail. It just doesn't feel the same. It's not right? And then it took a while. And then everything, all the media that was being produced for the movie that we had access to, all got cut. The famous commercial of Spider-Man making a web between the buildings and grabbing the helicopter. I mean, all that was just like such a shock because there was so much energy and so much emotion put into that. And New York, such is the playground, and then suddenly having such an impact, it was huge. And for us, it took a while for us to get back into just the things. It took a couple weeks for sure.
So fast forward, the game comes out. What is the reaction to the game?
Well, we're so exhausted. We're just destroyed. And then the movie comes out, and it's huge. And then the game hits the shelves, and then people start to freak out with the game, and we're not prepared for that. It's just everybody talks about this, and it's like suddenly but it's just like that. You walk around and you just mention, or you have some tchotchke from the game, some swag, and people just, you worked on this, and they come after you, and then they give us presents, they pay food for you, they let you go places first, you get tables on places. It's pretty bizarre, the whole celebrity life. Not very fond of it, not my thing, but was very interesting to see how one thing can literally change your life. Like, it's very touching. But I try not to get myself affected by it. I like to observe it from a distance. Wow, that's how it works. Thank you very much. Not for me, but it was very interesting. And throughout my career, I would work with people, especially because I'm older, right? And work with younger guys and girls. They come to me like, "Did you work on Spider-Man?" I was like, "Yeah." do you know that you're responsible for me to work in this industry? And I'm like, sorry? And they're like, no, seriously. And that to me is one of the coolest things.
Yeah.
You know, when you get to affect someone in a way that changed their lives, and they literally come to me with like glassy eyes, like, oh my God, you're so cool, it's so great, you know, like, oh, thank you. Yeah, if you only knew how hard it was for that to happen, but we did it. Yeah, it's fun.
That's amazing, man. So the game came out, you guys got a bunch of really cool feedback, and then what did you do next? What's after such a big feat like Spider-Man? What did you work on next?
Yeah, the biggest thing about that was the Burnout.
Yeah.
You know, because I did 2 back-to-back insane games attached to the biggest IP in the world at the time. So the pressure was insurmountable. I literally, that's one of the dark aspects of gaming. It affects you so much because you literally don't have a life for the duration of the project for the most part, in some cases. Some studios are much better than that. Fortunately, Treyarch is not. To this day, it's still not.
Treyarch, get your shit together.
Yeah, exactly. But I still hear the same complaints from people that still work there, and even worse. So, gaming, it's as I said, it's a work of art made with extremely talented and passionate people, and things happen, and tastes change. You know, new games come out, and then you have to play catch up, and build technology for that, and art for that, and make it fun. Because making it beautiful, making it run at 60 are very commendable things. But make someone really enjoy what you made, it's really hard. So when we made Spider-Man, it was this incredible success, and then Activision just like, okay, you guys are the guys that have to make this now, have to make this now. And then they went on to make Spider-Man 3 that I asked not to be involved because, you know, I was done. I was done seeing a guy running around in red and blue tights after 6 years of that. Then I got pushed, I got put into a game that was going to be one of those games that we will be talking to this day. And unfortunately, Activision killed it. It's called Dead Rush. It was a mix of GTA 3 with Dying Light, you know.
Oh my God, what?
It's literally everybody that worked in this game still thinks it's the coolest game ever. We had full deformation back in the PlayStation 2. We could shoot the zombies. So there's this island that you wake up, the usual trope, right? You wake up and then things are going on, and then there's this vortex, and then there's new monsters, and there's the people that are being affected. And there's a whole ecosystem. So zombies kill zombies, big zombies kill smaller zombies. There's a whole ecosystem of you know, pecking orders. And then you have to be inside all the time. You cannot be exposed. So you either have to be inside a car or inside of a building. But the zombies latch on to the cars, and they start ripping stuff apart. So you can shoot the guys from while driving, shoot the zombies, or you could scrape zombies against walls. It was so much fun scraping zombies, spinning out of the car and smearing them against the wall while body parts were flying. Back in the early 2000s. I mean, the zombies are walking towards you. You shoot one leg, the guy falls, and it keeps crawling, and you keep shooting, and they keep crawling, and you shoot every single limb, and the zombie would react. It was technology that even the ragdoll effect, you know, when you shoot someone, it comes to the ragdoll. Even the ragdoll had specific tensions, so the body would not just collapse like a ragdoll. They had weight. I mean, the tech on the game was so ahead of its time. But unfortunately, for some mismanagement inside Treyarch at the time, Activision decided to pull the plug and push Gun out. It was a game like a copy of Red Dead Revolver that didn't go anywhere, and nobody remembered that. But Dead Rush was gonna be the best, the coolest game Activision ever made. And it was such a sad situation that it never got out. But the technology, and the cars too, so you run your car, your zombies jump on you, and they start ripping pieces of your car apart. So you have to stop your car, find parts on another car and push and put them back. So you change wheels, you change parts because you have some cool cars. So in the end, you end up with like cars with different body parts. I mean, the thing was incredible. We had like an 18-wheeler. We had big fancy cars, old American cars, muscle cars. And you could just run around and jumping and blowing up a bunch of zombies at the same time. And you had light. So if you had like a torch or anything, the zombies won't get close to you. So you had to plan your gameplay based off of, the light that was dying from your torch or your gasoline. It was fantastic. And you never saw the light today.
Oh, man. And it's like, how many games are there out there that will never see the light of day because of things like that?
50 to 60% of all games. Wow. It's a lot of heartbreak. People don't understand in this industry when they see a game is that how many of them never made it. I mean, even inside the same studio, like people that worked with me, programmers, didn't get several games canceled while I navigated the waters, well enough inside the studio to always work in a game that actually got published, except for that one. But a lot of people work for years in games that never saw the light of day. They never got a bonus. They never had the pleasure of seeing their games out. Working 1, 2, and then get canceled or got bought and changed the way it's made. So I was very lucky and fortunate, and I managed to, as I said, navigate the water as well, asking for, hey, can I be part of this game? Or talking to our director, talking, the team, seeing if there's a room for me, and managed to get a collection of great games under my belt. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah. Did you ever, just going back to Spider-Man real quick, did you ever get to meet Stan Lee and interact with him? Did he ever give you guys feedback on the game, anything like that?
I would love for that to have happened. Unfortunately, that didn't happen with me. I saw other people that had interaction with him because we were mostly involved with the movie franchise. So it was Sam Raimi, back in the day it was Laura Zinsking, the producer, and Avi Arad from Marvel. Like when Spider-Man 2, when we started making the game, we had to make the game, we didn't have the final script. So they invited us to the Sony studios, and we get there, talk with them, and then they send us to a room that was all the merchandise from Spider-Man. But I'm talking about from chewing gum to bicycles to anything you can ever imagine with the movie visuals, the IP from the movie, right? On it, you could possibly imagine. And then I'm sitting at this gigantic table with my colleagues at the time, and then boom, Sam Raimi walks in, where you're wearing a Spider-Man shirt with the Spider-Man bowl full of Spider-Man cereal inside. And
what a nerd.
So I'm like, okay then. And then after I spent a whole year and a half, making Spider-Man, he walks in and is like, this is the best cereal. And I start eating. And then he literally sits in front of me and gives me and the guys the whole script. Like literally from his head to us, every dialogue, every scene. And we were like, getting it. And when we saw the movie, it was exactly what he told us. Like every step of the way it was all there. It's like, well, me and my brother are still writing the script, but here it is, and blah 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 blah, and this happens and this happens and then this happens, and we, and the coolest thing is like, oh, by the way, we are using the web ball like that we used in the game, and they use the web ball especially when Doc Ock is falling, and you just use the web ball, right? It's like, yeah, I stole it from you guys, and so that was cool. And then we on the first Spider-Man, we saw Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin, and then the final scene when they're fighting, and then Willem Dafoe and Tobey Maguire are fighting, and then the glider comes and all this stuff. So we saw this. We interacted with the body doubles, all the guys. All those suits, they're $100,000 a pop. Every single one of them has to be made for each person, and all the muscles have to match. So the muscles are made of foam underneath the suit.
Wow.
So if the guy has more shoulder or less shoulder, they have to adjust the suit to make them exactly the same. Wow. It's incredible. It's really incredible. I saw the body double wearing the suit when he gets all hurt, so it's all like bleedy and everything. So it's pretty intense. You touch it like, oh, it's foam. You touch your muscle, right? But it's all perfect. They're all perfect. You can see 2 or 3 guys, and they're exactly the same.
Wow, that's crazy. So after what just happened recently, Sony just took back Spider-Man. How do you feel about that, if you have any feelings about it? I know it doesn't have to do with the games necessarily, but I mean, still, it could have an impact on the franchise.
Yeah, I just find it when companies start to amass so much IP, intellectual property, in their one tent, I feel uneasy, because I feel that you have to have artistic liberties. And even when it's like just Disney or just Marvel, you know, like things start to just soften the edges to accommodate one company mindset. And I feel that this could water down the franchises. I would love for them to have their own little initiatives and making their own decisions that don't have to accommodate the bottom line. Or, oh, so-and-so, this show we launched and didn't make any money, so you guys now have to make money, and we got this. You know, while we're making the franchises, we will see other studios not do as well with their games, and then the pressure comes to us from the publishers, like, well, you guys have to save the house now, guys, because, you know, the other game didn't do as well, blah, 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 you know, you guys have to make it. And then the pressure, I mean, we didn't push the pressure on the guys on the team, but the leadership always got a hell of a pressure, because, well, now we're stuck, stock is falling with another Call of Duty, and that's how we made 2 Call of Duties back to back in 9 months of pop. And that's like absolutely inhumane. That's like, it's what we went through to get those 2 Call of Duties out, and with, you know, Infinity Ward making Call of Duties in 2.5 years with amazing people, with all the love and support possible. Like, yeah, they did that in 2.5 years, and it's making a ton of money. Now here to have 9 months. Go. Do it. Oh, by the way, we added 2 more platforms that didn't exist now. You have to learn those 2 new platforms that just came out. One is not done yet. PlayStation 3 is not done yet. But go with this Xbox thing here to 60 and make as good as they did in 2.5 years. Go.
Wow.
And we did it.
All right, so tell me about Call of Duty more, developing that game, and talk about the introduction of Call of Duty Zombies, because it's one of my favorite stories.
So we worked on one Call of Duty in 9 months, the Call of Duty 2 Big Red one. That was like an offshoot for the dying PlayStation 2 and the dying Xbox when they're already preparing for the launch for the new consoles. But of course, the new consoles are new, they're not enough in numbers. We have to make games for the older consoles. Not as glamorous, but there's millions of people with them. So we were working on that one, and we delivered, and we were like, oh my God, we really made this? We made a Call of Duty game in 9 months? And it was crazy. You had to adapt technology, adapt a new engine, literally learn how to, and we were merging with a smaller studio that we brought inside of Treyarch. So all the new personalities and all this stuff, right? Then we all like exhausted to death after the death march, and we thought, okay, now what we're gonna do? You know, I hope that we're gonna get some cool project that we can actually work for. Hey, by the way, there's a new Call of Duty that you guys have to make, and it's for next Christmas. I'm like, wait a minute, it's October now, and we just I mean, like, it's still warm. The seats are still warm from our 12, 14-hour days. Yep, it's for the new Xbox 360, and the PlayStation 3 also is coming along, but we don't have the hardware. So while we're making the game, we're gonna have to figure out the hardware and make it fit. And I think it's gonna be also on the Gamecube. And we were like, what? Excuse me?
On the Gamecube?
On the
really?
Gamecube. We had to shove that thing on the Gamecube. That's pretty much the same hardware power of the old Xbox, the original Xbox, right? So we're trying to make. So we have to make the game for the PlayStation 2, and the Xbox, and the Xbox 360, and the PlayStation 3, and the Gamecube in 9 months. And by the way, Infinity Ward just finished Call of Duty 2 to astounding success. Launch game for the Xbox 360. Go. Okay then. This guy's already worked on Medal of Honor and Call of Duty 1 and then Call of Duty 2, and then we have to just figure three new consoles, a whole new generation of consoles that the technology is completely different, with new people, and outsourcing, because we would not be able to finish it, and we had to finish for that year. That's it. So we worked our asses off in a way that was just like so destructive, and inventing new technologies. We had quick time events. We had multiplayer with vehicles. That's something that wasn't done for the longest time after we did it. And I just saw the latest Call of Duty World War II, and I looked at it and I was like, it's Call of Duty 3. It's right there. Mm-hmm. We did a very good job. I had to learn about outsourcing. We didn't have any outsourcing in the company. And I had to work with a company in China when they just started doing outsourcing. So I had to literally, learn how to deal with people that were literally 3 months before they were on the farms, and now they're 3D modelers. They were just like pushing people through schools, and people that never touched a computer suddenly are modeling 3D objects for World War II. And I had to order the objects in 2 different formats. I had to order the objects in PlayStation 2 and Xbox, and the new generation. And one had 2 textures, the other one had 6 textures each. And I keep track and send to the right people and make the right builds for each one of the platforms. Was really, really, really challenging, but was great. The game looks great. Super proud of it too. Not bad. But at the same time, after that, I was like, okay, 2 Call of Duties. I'm done with Call of Duty. I don't want to do this anymore.
And where did Zombies come into play?
And Zombies was like at the end of the game when we were still testing stuff. And at the end of the game, you have to be more careful anything you touch in the game, because if you break it, the consequences are harsh, right? So one of our designers used the animation from a soldier coming out of a structure in flames. So he's dying. So he's just walking funny, and then he collapses. So they used that animation and put it on a soldier's body, on a German soldier's body, and it literally made like a tower defense game. They put a little house in the middle and made zombies coming from all sides, and you had to just shoot them, And that was simple. And then they put put some. So while the guys were just finishing the game and the guys had some time off, this guy was there. Jesse Snyder is his name. I like to tell you because a lot of stories, including at Treyarch, that don't take into consideration. He is Jesse Snyder. Jesse, I remember that. Jesse Snyder was there in his room making sure that thing, and then suddenly people start playing that more than actually playing Call of Duty for testing, because it was more fun, right? And then they couldn't hide it. And we showed up and they liked it, and they released with a very simple mechanics in the beginning, and then boom, became this huge monster, right? But it was funny how humble beginnings. One guy, couple guys just got there, got some animations, put together stuff, and boom. And to this day, they still don't get the credit every once in a while. It's like, come on, guys, no. Everybody, as soon as some communication comes from guys from Treyarch thinking they can take the credit from it, and we got like, no, I was there, it was not you, it was that guy. So yeah, Jesse worked on that, and it's a great add-on. Like, I love it.
So for freelancers that are listening to this, how much money were you getting paid at the time? Like, was this like a minimum wage kind of job? Were you getting, like, what were the bonuses like? Like, how did the money come into play and building your career as like a video game developer?
Well, it's if you come from like places like Europe, where people have degrees and you can do whatever your degree dictates you can do, right? Video games is the complete opposite of that. Video games is literally brute force talent. You as I said, you live in California, you live in Los Angeles, where the best of the best in the world come here to try, right? You're competing with the best people in the world, literally. So unless you have something really good to add on to the conversation, it's just noise. And these people are so overworked, and they don't have time for, oh, look at this, I made a drawing. Like, no. Unless you have something like, holy cow, dude, let's talk, right? It's very hard to come in. Other markets are not as hard. You can, there's room, and the thing also, the salaries here are so high. They pay well. The gaming industry usually pays quite well. I'm not talking about Silicon Valley money and everything, because most of the guys don't get equity in the companies they work. It happens, but not as often. But it's well paid. Several companies have bonus structures when, sometimes you have like 30%, 50%, 100% of your yearly salary on a bonus. But usually this comes after the game is shipped, after the publisher paid the game off, then the game made money, then you get the leftovers, right? So if you work on a big franchise and you're one of the leads, usually you make some money. But if you're a floor guy, like working on QA or not a lead, your bonus will be probably like distributed similarly across, right? And there's the fact of the life and work balance that it's quite inexistent. I literally spent years seeing my wife in the intervals. When she's coming back from work, or I'm waking up, she's gone, and I come home and she's asleep, and then weekends I'm working, and then we have an event, then I have to escape work, go to the event, go back to work. I did that over and over again for years. So if you care about your hobbies and your family and your kids and your stuff, it's a very tough industry to come in.
So after Call of Duty, what did you work on next? How long were you in gaming? How long did you do this for?
So after Call of Duty, I wanted a little break of the guy with the sword, or the guy with a gun running around. And I was transferred to another studio from Activision to work on Transformers. No, actually, I lie. I worked on James Bond, Quantum of Solace. Wow. That was a cool franchise to work with, because they just came back with Casino Royale. It was a great Bond movie. And it really restarted the franchise with Daniel Craig, right? So it was super fun, and we're super excited to work on it. Unfortunately, the second movie was not as good as Casino Royale, but allowed me to go work with the talent and photograph Judi Dench and Olga Kurilenko, Mark Forrest, even the director and everything, and laser scans and everything. So it was really cool to go to Pinewood Studios to meet the production crew and everything. I was responsible for all the assets, so anything that existed in the game was going through me. So every phone, every chair, everything had to be done. And because it's a contemporary game, everything has to be real, but cannot be the real deal, because otherwise you have to pay royalties for the company. So every phone you see doesn't exist in real life. It has elements from phones from real life, but it's not something you can buy. No, you can't. No, I mean, we had to have Sony phones because Xperia had right. So, but everything else had to be made from scratch. So, I want a living room. Cool. So I cannot just make this couch because this couch is from that factory in this color. So I had to create variations. Everything have to have a variation. Every phone, every seat, every computer, anything cannot be just a copy. It has to be changed. So I had to find the photos, modify the photos in Photoshop, then send to the outsourcing team. They will send it back. I ask for corrections, put it in the game, test, check, import, and the guys can use the material. Every single thing, every pen, every pencil, every notepad, everything you see in the game had to be created from scratch out of something that exists but cannot be what exists.
Holy shit. I can't believe how much goes into like making video games, and I don't think people appreciate it. And I recently just like thought out loud to myself while playing a video game, like, I understand why this game was $69. Like, talk about the price points of games and why they're so expensive.
Well, when you consider, for example, on Spiderman 2, right? Back in the day, early 2000s, they spent $120 million in advertisement, in marketing. And that for a game that was already being marketed, from a movie marketed to death. And they still spent $120 million. Wow. Right? It's because you have to blanket. You have one shot. It's launch. Unless you have like a Fortnite or something that is, downloadable forever, World of Warcraft or Infinity, Destiny, you have one shot. So you have to make the best of it. So you have to blanket the airwaves and show everywhere. I mean, for Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1, just have an idea how crazy it was. We sent the crew, the media, to Poland. And then they got into a castle, a small manor, a little castle, where the Nazis stayed. And then they were taken to a bunker, and then the ruins of a bunker. And during the ruins of the bunker, when they were checking out, Nazi troops in full garb and vehicles show up, round everybody up, screaming, guns at hand, and all the reporters go to the bunker. And then the bunker is darkened, and then a whole artillery event happens, and all the lights go off, explosions going off, all the reporters are scared shitless, and the lights come on, and then the trailer is playing on the TV inside the bunker. So,
wait, the trailer for the game, so it was all a setup.
All set up. I mean, we had like soldiers, everything.
What the fuck?
it's big. It's big. So you have, and then of course after that dinners and all this stuff. So you have to. It costs a lot of money. Like the production team on Call of Duty, it's like half the size of the production team. It's dozens of people. They have to deal with vendors and magazines and events around the world. Wow. It's huge. And then you have the teams. You have several art directors. You have several teams. Each one, there's the weapons team. There's the vehicles team. There's the characters team. There's the weapons team. There's the environments team. There's the stuff, people that make the assets, right? So it's huge. And then you have the people that deal with the gameplay and to make the weapons absolutely perfect. There's people out there on Call of Duty that critique every aspect of the weapons. They know exactly the range of the rate of fire, the range, how far the bullet is gonna go down. I mean, like, it's crazy. Like, literally, people that use the game as a platform to learn more about one thing or another. So it costs millions and millions and millions of dollars to make a game. When people think that, okay, well, it costs $60, $60 is a fake number. This number is the same, it hasn't changed, right? But we cannot maintain a AAA title with $60. It doesn't exist. Yeah. Especially because you sell the game, and then they're not gonna make money anymore. You know. So how can we make more money? out of such a strict one. You're restricted to where you can play. You have to have the number of consoles. You're restricted to who wants to play the game. And then how can you entertain this person as long as possible? Because people expect to pay $60, that's like 3 movie tickets, and expect to be entertained for 100 hours, 40 hours minimum, right? Imagine if you pay $15 and want to see a movie that lasts 8 hours every time, you know? It's a lot of work. So that's why I see how gaming started going more towards the pay-to-play, like they do in China. Pay-to-play is not, it's frowned upon in the West. In China, yeah, I want to pay and I want to win over that guy. I don't care. I'm not better than him, but I have more money. Here, big sword, bad. Right? Like, no. You have, it's skill-based. So when these things show up in our games here, it's like big outcry. I'm not fond of it either. I like I'm an old timer. I like take my hand and show me a good time. You know, I don't have to, you know, just show me a good time. I want to be involved. I want to be interested. I want to be, you know, into it. And then give me an ending. It's okay. I don't have to spend 100 hours to get the ending. Just give me a freaking ending. That'll be like, yes, it was worth my 40 hours of effort. You know. But never forget the ending. One of the worst traumas in gaming was a game called Callisto Island. It was a game in the color computer that was from the 80s. And it was one of the first graphic adventures, right? So I didn't even know English at the time. So I had to play the game with a dictionary, trying to figure the fuck out. Okay, what is this saying here? Oh, look at that, right? So I finished the game, and the moment you finish the last puzzle and you do what you have to do, it just freezes the game and prints on the bottom. Congrats, you did it. That's it. I'm like, what? I spent a whole week trying to figure out why the hell I had to put the bucket inside the fucking canoe and then do that and make no sense, but I did it 10,000 times and I made it, and the last thing I get is, congrats, you did it. And the game froze. I just want to kill people. So I made it my mission, like every game I'll make will have like fireworks in the end.
Like a sick ass ending.
Fuck that. I want big ending. Even like my own mobiles, after I left Activision, then was doing the downturn in 2008. They closed a bunch of studios, and I was part of the.
So you guys dealt with that decline, the recession in 2008 as well in the gaming industry.
Oh, huge. The gaming industry has ups and downs. You know, when there's a new console coming out, and nobody wants to play games for the old stuff. Everybody wants to play games for the new stuff, but everybody still has the old stuff, right? And then there's this conundrum, and then there's studio closures and everything. When I was here, when I moved here in '97, was this huge lull in gaming because PCs were catching up, consoles just came out, the Nintendo didn't work out then, 64 wasn't that hot, the PlayStation 1 was still going strong, but it was in this lull until they released the Dreamcast and the PlayStation 2. So that was bad at the time. And 2008 was really, really bad because the studios didn't want to take chances on smaller games anymore. You know, Activision had a bunch of games, and then suddenly we have 2, 3. You know, you have Call of Duty, Skylanders, Guitar Hero. That's it. You know, and all the studios had hundreds of people, each of them. And they're extremely talented, but there's so much talent that the industry can absorb, right? So 2008, everything went down, and I'm like, okay, I'm working here for 11 years. So I left and I opened my own studio at home. So I made 2 mobile games that were published by Chilingo. You know, get approached by a publisher like Chilingo that was killing it at the time. They were doing a little game called Angry Birds and a bunch of others, and they were making money more than God, and they didn't know what to do with it. And then they contacted me. Actually, I'm friends with them to this day. They actually contacted me today, Chris and guys are like, it's funny, like you're there working 3 o'clock in the morning, and then pop, this mail comes from the UK, and like, hey, I'm the CEO of Chilingo, and I saw your game. It's like, what? And it was great. And I made 2 games called Zombie Wonderland, 1 and 2. And it's all about this OCD zombie cleaner that you hire, because the zombies are just nuisances. They come into your house, you shoot them, it stains the carpet. So you're gonna go out and you leave him inside. So the zombies come. It's a tower defense style too. So you shoot the zombies. As the zombies break in too, you shoot them. You have to mop the floor, right? And it's funny because it's so cute, because I still get. I mean, the game last time was anywhere was 2011, 2012, right? To this day, I still have people sending me messages on Facebook saying this is the best game ever. I love it. What's gonna happen? Please make another one. And and I made sure to make a very nice conclusion with ending with fireworks at the end. But people want more, and it's so cool because it's like you're talking to this kid in freaking Greece, you know, a kid in Greece.
So what are you working on now, if anything? What is your focus on now? And if people want to know more about you, Krakatoa, where can they find you?
Oh, sure, yeah. So after all this, and I consider that after finishing my 2 games, and I worked on more things about gaming at the time, and I was okay, it's time for me to go from this industry. Love it. I've done everything I could. There's nothing else I could do. I mean, literally, I was a studio head. I published my own games. I had my own booth at E3, you know. So I'm done with this industry, and then I started Krakatoa because of this. Because, as I said, I found out that we guys were not represented. Literally, was not. I didn't find anything that I liked, and I find other people having the same issues. But I think that the focus that I put on my approach on making it not the hottest or the coolest or one that works for everybody, including girls, right? They can use it, and just making the best, make the best product possible. You know, like I run into issues now because people are like, no, but you have to be more of a businessman. The product doesn't matter. I totally get it. But I would not be just trying to open a new business if I didn't have anything meaningful behind it. You know, like I enjoy the whole business for business approach, but if I'm not making someone happy in some way or another, either playing a OCD zombie cleaner inside of a mobile game or putting the best fucking underwear in the world in their bodies, then somebody else can do it. You know, I want to do something meaningful. And I think Krakatoa is exactly that. It's meaningful. You know, I get emails from people saying just single line, thank you. I get guys getting married and asking me for, I see this weird order with several different sizes for the same color. And I'm like, what's this? And then I get an email from the guy, no, can you have me just one XL size in blue? I'm like, sure, why? He's like, I'm getting married, and Krakatoa is the best and my favorite underwear in the world. And I got all my best men, all wearing Krakatoa.
Amazing.
And I was like, what? And he sent me a photo of him in when he's like groom on the ass, and his brother with the blue ones, and everybody with underwear, all colored and all with their names, all their roles in the behind. All look at it. I was like, this is why, you know.
Amazing.
So
where can people find you?
Well, you can find me at KrakatoaUnderwear.com, where you can find the weirdest and the coolest underwear in the world. And you can find me on LinkedIn or on Instagram too. If you want to find Alex on Instagram, I'm on Instagram when Instagram started. So my handle is easy, at BZZI, at Bortoluzzi, BZZI, or KrakatoaUnderwear.com.
All right, guys, so that has been another episode of Project Freelance. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for checking this episode out. If you are new to the podcast, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. They come out every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you guys want to get to know Alex a little bit more, you can follow all the links down in the description. There's also a bunch of affiliate links down there if you guys need help with things like editing software, or if you need to help tracking your mileage for your taxes. There's a bunch of stuff down in the description that I think could help you guys out. And if you like this podcast, do me a favor and rate it, give it 5 stars, and leave some feedback so other people that are looking for podcasts to listen to might find your feedback and listen to this. Thank you, guys. I will talk to you next week on Project Freelance. My name is Kay Nagonio. Stay strong, keep enduring, go out, and go create something.